This is the evil following 29er. Let's get at it. This is the evil following. This is Evil's mid-travel 29er. The front and rear shocks are handled by rock shocks with 130 millimeters of a pipe shock up front and a Monarch RT3 in back. It sports 120 millimeters of Delta suspension design from Dave Weigel. It's the same suspension designer as the famous DW Link found on Ibis and Pivot brands. The other key parts to call out here are the wider Easton 30 wheels. And as the name suggests, the rims have an internal width of 30 millimeters. These came wrapped with WTB Vigilantes 2.3s. Although I don't have much experience with WTB tires, I had high expectations with the grip the 29ers are supposed to give me, along with the wider rims that this bike came with. This particular bike I rode had a 1x11 SRAM X1 drivetrain and guide brakes. So why did I specifically choose this bike? This bike has received so many rave reviews. I wanted to see what the fuss was all about. Specifically for me, there were three main things I wanted to find out. Number one, will this bike fit me? I wanted to see how I felt on a full suspension 29er. Two, this bike is supposed to be playful and agile. And the last, the bike is supposed to handle itself well in rough terrain. And boy, what a surprise. So let's start with number one. I'm short. You guys know that. I've said this in multiple videos. I'm 5'6", maybe 5'7", hopefully 5'7". I wanted to see how a person of my size can fit on the hottest trending thing right now in mountain bikes, which is a short to mid-travel 29er. I got a medium, and it fit fine. Felt comfortable on this rig. This is Ridgeline in Dupont in North Carolina. As a point of reference, I've ridden a 2016 Specialized Enduro before, and it's a medium. Every time I tried to take a tight turn, I actually felt a little too high on the bike. This bike was fantastic. Hey, buddy. As you can see here, this is a relatively fast trail. It's one of the best out there on the east side of the United States, and I loved it. I actually felt like I could really rail the berms as best as I can as a person of my level. That probably has a lot to do with the super short chainstays that this thing has. It has a 16.93 chainstay length. Now when you compare that to the newest version of the Bronson, that bike with a 27.5 only has a 17.01 chainstay, which by itself is super short already. The bottom bracket height, which probably aids in the feeling of how low this bike is for a person of my height, is 12.88 inches high. Now when you compare that to a Santa Cruz 5010, that bike is Santa Cruz's Dart. That thing only has a bottom bracket height of 13.15. And this thing's even lower, and this thing is a 29er. Now, which brings me to my next point. This bike is supposed to be playful and agile. And so far, I hope that you could see it here is that this thing can rail left and right, up and down, and everything else. It is so playful. It is one of those bikes that even though it's a 29er, when there's a little root or there's a little bump, boost it to get a little bit of air, and it was just that playful. It reminded me of my 5010. It was an amazing, amazing feeling. Now what you're going to see here is the climbs. It's a necessary pain that we all have to go through as mountain bikers. And I can confidently say that the Delta system is a really, really good climbing platform. Now, I do have to admit that when I first picked this bike up, it actually felt pretty heavy. Now this bike, this build kit that I received wasn't the highest build kit, and it actually felt kind of heavy, with your hand. But you'll notice immediately when you're on the trail, you don't feel the weight. And I don't know, I know I've heard that maybe because it's on the bottom of the bike and it's lower center of gravity, maybe it's that. But It's amazing. It climbs really well. The Delta suspension really provides a great amount of traction. And as I said before, I had high expectations with the 29er wheels, along with the wider rims, just the grip that you got, and it didn't let me down. It was amazing. I couldn't say enough about how well this bike was all around. I wonder how this thing will really do when it gets a little bit gnarly, where the trails get a little bit more leaf covered, and it gets a little bit more rooty and rocky. I have the perfect trail for that. Why don't we bring her to the Black Mountain Trail? Point number 3. This bike is supposed to handle itself well in rough terrain. So, right after we rode Dupont that day, we decided to go back to the Black Mountain Trail, where just the day before, I rode the great Santa Cruz Hightower 27.5 Plus. Now, immediately, I can admit that it wasn't as planted. As you can see, that was not the bike's fault. That was a slip from the leaves. For those of you guys that have ridden this trail recently, there's a lot of dry leaves and a lot of dryness, so there's a lot of loose traction. Anyway, that being said, although it didn't feel as planted as that bike, the 29ers really did help smooth out the terrain just because it had better rollover. But aside from that, the suspension did really well, despite the fact that it only had 120 millimeters in back and 130 up front. And just like the other bikes that I rode, which is the first bike was the Giant Trance, the second bike was a Santa Cruz Hightower, and this is the third. All of them had the same amount of suspension playing on my part to get it dialed right. I really felt like if I had a little bit more time on this bike, I really could have done well, really dialing this in. I felt super confident on this bike. It just did really well in the chunk. It was something that I was expecting because of the reviews that I read before that, but I really wasn't expecting it to be as planted feeling as the Hightower, which it wasn't. But as you can see here, I'm carrying speed really well through the chunk. I felt comfortable here, and I just felt like if I had a little bit more time with this bike to dial into the suspension, God, this bike is an amazing bike. This is the lower Black Mountain Trail. This is where you can find a lot of the flow, and similar to Dupont, this bike just begged me for speed. This bike just begged me to let go of the brakes, although, I of course used them. This bike was so fast, and it gave me so much confidence in the corners. It was so playful. It was left and right, up and down. It was fantastic. I kept on thinking about, man, what if I had this bike? What are the smart part specs that I would have chose to make this bike even lighter feeling than what it really was? What if I had carbon wheels on this? What if I put a carbon bar on this? What if I had a lighter crank? These are the things that this bike asked me. And honestly, this is a really big contender for the next bike that I will have to replace my 5010 as a trail bike. It is really that good. And if you haven't tried it already, I really would consider trying this. This particular bike was rented from the hub at Pisgah. It's in Brevard, North Carolina. That said, I'm going to leave this telling you guys that the word out there, the reviews out there are true. This bike is amazing. That bike was the third and last bike that I tried at Pisgah. And that bike was actually my favorite one. Despite the fact that it is a 29er and despite all the reviews that I read, I had to see it for myself on how good that bike was. And that was my favorite above the Giant Trance and even the great Santa Cruz high tower 27 plus. Now, of course, there's compromises. However, that was my favorite bike. I hope you guys liked this video, and subscribe, share, certainly check out Pittsburgh Active at Instagram and Facebook. I'll see you guys later. Happy holidays.